The website Vox has an urgent report this week. The headline from writer Alex Abad Santos tells us, quote, people forgot how to act in public, which of course raises the question, when did people ever know how to act in public? Like, what do you mean they forgot? Did they ever know? But we'll get back to that in a moment. Here's how the piece begins. Some people shouldn't be out in public right now. Movie theaters have become a lawless land where some moviegoers have no reservations about using their phones after films have started. Sometimes it's not just a glance at the time, but full-on social media scrolls and posting. In New York City, Broadway audiences are drunk, rowdy, and apparently leaving feces in the aisles of theaters. This summer at various concerts, Albanian pop star Bebe Rexha, is that what it is? Okay, close enough. Was beamed in the face. A fellow pop princess, Ava Max, was slapped by a stage rusher, and aerial enthusiast Pink was handed someone's mother's ashes. Fans interrupted country singer Miranda Lambert's intimate show with an impromptu photo shoot, and a fan threw water on rapper Cardi B. Cardi B responded by chucking her microphone at her water flinger. Large-scale in-person events are down bad. Well, we should also note that journalism is down bad when the phrase down bad is appearing in articles. As for the rest of it, I haven't been to a concert in probably 13 or 14 years. I've never been to a Broadway show. And with 6 kids, I go to movies maybe twice a year at this point, which actually has less to do with the 6 kids and more to do with the fact that there are only 2 movies a year at most that are worth watching in the theater. My point is that I can't attest to the epidemic of bad public behavior at these venues. Personally, I haven't been in these venues very often, but I don't doubt the claim. And I'll also say that obviously, this should go without saying, anyone who scrolls social media in a movie theater during a movie should be arrested on the spot and publicly flogged. If I were theocratic fascist dictator of America, this is one of the very first policies I would instate. There would be public flogging stations set up directly outside of movie theaters so that those who misbehave can be dealt with quickly and efficiently. We would also have guillotines on spot for repeat offenders. And just to clarify for our big tech overlords who are listening to this episode, I am not advocating violence against those who talk, text, or use social media at the movies. I'm not advocating it. I'm simply suggesting a legal policy that we might want to explore. It would be at least one way to curb the behavior that Vox is reporting on. And it's not just Vox. On the same day, the BBC published an article on what it calls, quote, the summer of bad tourists. And it begins, quote, this summer, every day seems to bring another headline of tourists around the world behaving badly. Last week, it was 2 drunk Americans sneaking into a closed section of the Eiffel Tower and sleeping off their bender high above Paris. The previous week, a French woman was arrested for carving a heart and her initials into Italy's iconic Leaning Tower of Pisa. A Canadian teen defaced a 1,200-year-old Japanese temple last month, just after a Bristol-based man etched 2 names into Rome's Colosseum and told authorities he was unaware of the arena's age. And who could forget the German tourist who crashed a performance inside a sacred Bali temple and stripped naked after having previously run out on the bill at several local hotels. Feels like the whole world has forgotten how to act in other people's homes. So people are acting up in movies, at concerts, on vacation, at tourist destinations. Where else? Well, of course, we can't forget airplanes, which have seen over the past few years a stark rise in incidents involving rowdy and unruly passengers. 2021 was a very bad year for that kind of thing. And it looks like 2022 was even worse. This past June, the International Air Transport Association released its official report on the subject. Reading now, it says, quote, the International Air Transport Association released a new analysis showing that reported unruly passenger incidents increased in 2022 compared to 2021. Latest figures show that there was 1 unruly incident reported for every 568 flights in 2022, which is up from 1 per 835 in 2021. The most common categorizations of incidents in 2022 were noncompliance, verbal abuse, and intoxication. Physical abuse incidents remained very rare, but these had an alarming increase of 61% over 2021. Now, 1 incident every 568 flights doesn't sound too bad on the surface, but when you consider the increase and also just how many flights take off around the world every day, thus just how many episodes of drunkenness and physical abuse in the sky this translates to, you start to see the scope of the problem. And it's a problem that extends beyond airplanes and beyond tourist destinations and theaters and concerts. In many ways, this is part and parcel with the epidemic of violent crime we talked about in the opening, looting, shoplifting. It's all part of the same picture. And we haven't even mentioned the most dire and urgent indicator of social chaos, which is the fact that, as I talk about often, Nearly everyone these days seems to have no problem ditching their shopping carts in parking lots. I actually looked for some hard data on the rate of shopping cart ditching to see how it's increased over time. I spent way too much time this morning looking for that. Somehow it seems like this issue has never been formally studied, and I don't know how that could be the case. All we can say then is that there are a lot of people doing it, and everyone who has ever done it for any reason is a psychopath who should be in solitary confinement. But the real question is why? Why is all this happening? Why are people acting this way? If outrageous, offensive, antisocial behavior is becoming more common, then what explains the increase? Well, that Vox article has an answer, and it's exactly the answer that you would expect. It's the answer they give for everything. They say it's all because of COVID. Reading, quote, according to experts I spoke to, this rash of bad behavior can probably be traced to the pandemic shutdowns of 2020. During the lockdowns, we didn't have large-scale social events, and no doubt, some people have sort of forgotten how to act now that they're back. Since humans thrive on collective effervescence, it was a complete shock to our systems in 2020 when the pandemic, seemingly overnight, obliterated those large social gatherings, finding that in-person effervescence became impossible. The pendulum swing from gathering in real life to being relegated to social media to now in 2023 coming back to real-life events may explain why some people are being disruptive and not fully comprehending the impact they're having on their fellow audience members. They're using the modes of social connection they got accustomed to, posting a video from a movie theater, scrolling through social media during a Broadway play, or treating a concert like a performance they're watching from home in a setting that's inappropriate. Now, to be clear, I don't dismiss this explanation out of hand. There's no doubt some truth to it. When you lock people in their homes and you shut down all social gatherings, you force people to wear muzzles, depriving them of the ability to see each other's faces and fully connect even on the rare occasions when they're out in public. When you do all that, there are going to be social consequences. And none of those consequences will be good. The majority of Gen Z supports left-wing policies like open borders and socialism. If we don't reach them and change their minds, the country we know and love will be lost forever. Those are the stakes. PragerU is the leading nonprofit when it comes to influencing young people. And I've been working closely with PragerU for a long time. Daily Wire has especially. And what we know about PragerU is that they have a huge impact on the culture with educational, entertaining, pro-American videos where you can meet young people where they are online and open their minds to the truth. But they need your help to do it. Go to PragerU.com and make a tax-deductible donation. Whatever you give right now will be tripled and have 3 times the impact. Donate $10, it triples to $30. Give $100, it explodes to $300. That's the math on that. That's all the math I can do. PragerU is 100% free to everyone with no fees or subscriptions. They don't rely on ads or clickbait headlines. Contrary to what the left says, PragerU isn't funded by a handful of billionaires. It's funded by people just like you. In order to keep making great content, reaching millions, and changing minds, PragerU needs your help. That's PragerU.com to donate today. But this doesn't come close to explaining the a-hole epidemic or accounting for the entire scope of the problem. The lockdowns may have exacerbated some of this stuff, but it was there all along. The real source of the problem, the thing that you probably aren't going to hear anyone talk about on Vox, is that we live in a culture that fundamentally encourages this kind of self-centered behavior. There has been a deliberate effort going back decades to undermine and ultimately destroy all of the basic standards of etiquette that nearly everyone once recognized. Like they used to teach etiquette as a subject in school, but those days are long gone. Etiquette has become such a dirty word that Vox wrote an entire article about etiquette and never used the word etiquette in the article. They never acknowledged that that's what they were talking about. What they're discussing is not just people being, quote, down bad, whatever that means. They're talking about a loss of etiquette in social situations. The problem for our culture and those in charge of it is that etiquette, both as a term and a concept, first of all, has the vibe of something old-fashioned, like our grandparents cared about etiquette, which makes it automatically archaic and inherently bigoted in the modern mind. Etiquette, by definition, is a customary code of polite behavior among members of a social group, but customary means old, it means traditional. It means something that has existed prior to yesterday. We, and by we, I mean the universal we, not you or me specifically, hopefully, we've decided that we have no use for tradition, which is why tradition has also become a dirty word right alongside etiquette. And that's what a lot of this stuff links back to. Second and most importantly, etiquette is a code of conduct that you as an individual are expected to abide by whether you want to or not, whether it feels good or not, whether it infringes on your personal expression or not. It is something that is often supposed to supersede the desires of the individual. It comes before living your truth, whatever that means. But as a society, we've entirely lost the ability to convey that kind of message. We don't even have the language for it anymore. The feelings of the individual have long since taken center stage, and they now come before any notion of the common good or the needs of society. In other words, people look at their phones in the movie theater because they want to look at their phones in the movie theater. It's what they desire to do in that moment. It's what will make them happiest right then and there, they think. And so why shouldn't they simply do what makes them happy? Why should they care if it makes you less happy? Why should they concern themselves with your truth when they're so busy living theirs? The writers at Vox have no answer for that. They can't really deal with this dilemma because they don't understand what the dilemma is. We can complain impotently about people being jerks, but when it comes to explaining why exactly people should not be jerks, it all breaks down. The only real solution here is to restore some sense of order, of traditional etiquette, of social custom. It's to reestablish a hierarchy where the momentary impulses and desires of the individual are not sitting at the very top in the place of utmost importance. In other words, it means defeating leftism. That's the only actual solution. And we can be pretty sure that Vox will not be up for that. Which is why all the people acting like jerks in public, and also Vox, are all today canceled. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.